To the Brookhaven Town Board meeting tonight, and I'm going to bang the gavel, call it to order, and with that, if we would all stand and pledge our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Sounded like it was in unison. At this time, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence, and I'd like us to remember all of those people who are facing health issues, whether they be from COVID, or whether they're facing a serious operation, or they have some serious health issues. Let's keep them in our prayers and in our thoughts. We really want everyone to be as healthy and happy as they can be. So let's give it a moment of silence. With that, we'll start the meeting with the roll call from our clerk. Donna?
Yes, 1 second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
She said she has a little bit of a delay with the new system, Ed.
Oh, right, okay. We have a new system in which whatever we're saying, Donna hears about 30 seconds later.
Well, I have a few more steps to take in between, that's all.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Bonner,
I'm here.
Councilman Laval,
Present.
Councilman Legurcio,
Present.
Councilman Foley,
Here.
Councilman Panico,
Here.
Supervisor Romaine.
Present.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you very much. We're moving right to reports to the board. The first will be by our town clerk, and after that report is given, then by our town highway superintendent.
No, sir, I have no report tonight.
Okay. So we'll move right to our highway superintendent, Dan Squadro.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As we all know, we are unfortunately in a very active winter weather pattern right now. What meteorologists was referring to as an atmospheric river coming off the Pacific Ocean and spreading storms clear across the United States. So we have had a number of storms that have hit us back to back, some larger, some smaller. But the one issue that we are having right now that is impacting all of the downstate region is the ability to get salt deliveries. We are not in imminent danger of running out at the moment, but I would estimate that we are only at about 25 or 30% capacity right now. The issue is not that the New York State contract vendor does not have enough salt at their facility. The issue is getting it off of Staten Island where their facility is located. The route that they take involves going up the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, and there is a cantilever bridge in the vicinity of the Brooklyn Navy Yard, Brooklyn Bridge area that has suffered structural damage. So the weight limits have been drastically reduced, which means they're running lighter loads and more trucks. And the trucks that are doing these deliveries are waiting 3, 4, 5 hours online just to go over the scales to get into and out of that salt facility. It is leading to a shortage. This afternoon, I spoke with one of the directors upstate, regionally from the DOT. They are aware of the situation. They are looking at the 2 alternate vendors, which are Morton Salt and Appalachia Salt. And we are looking to get material from those alternate vendors if Atlantic Salt cannot increase their rates of delivery. I am staying open with the skeleton crew in the evenings, on weekends, trying to make it as easy as possible for Atlantic Salt to get those deliveries to us. But I just want you to be aware of the situation. There are other townships who have far less than us, who are essentially out at the moment. We are not in that situation, but I wanted to make you aware that this is something that I am monitoring. I am in touch with the governor's office, and they put me in touch with the DOT today, and with our local senators who have been assisting in facilitating that contact. So we will continue to be open throughout this weekend, getting those deliveries in. But again, those deliveries are much smaller than what they would usually be. So our rate that we're taking it in is greatly reduced. As far as the storms are concerned, obviously, I'm sure as everyone is seeing, the past couple of storms, about a 6-inch storm, and last night between 2 and 4 inches, depending on where you were across the town. We have handled very quickly, very efficiently. Even with some of the reductions in the workforce that we have with outside contractors, these storms are well within our capability to handle within a very reasonable time frame. The one very large storm that we had a number of vendors, even after giving us their insurance certificates and signing up with us, we had close to 100 of them not come in. We have been actively pursuing additional vendors, but again, in speaking with my colleagues, and I am currently president of the Suffolk County Superintendent of Highways Association, in speaking with my colleagues across the county, with the last 2 snow seasons being very minimal and with insurance premiums increasing, many of the previous vendors that had worked for municipalities in the past have gotten out of that line of work. We are running ads in local newspapers. We are trying by word of mouth to get additional vendors. But even with the capability we have, and I do want to say, take a moment to say thank you not only to the men and women of the Highway Department, but also the Parks Department and Waste Management Department, who have been pitching in to help us on the roads as well. We have been able to meet our stated in-house goals, but I ask people to be patient during a storm like the one we had with 16 or 18 inches. My goal is always to have a road open, meaning a path down the road within 24 hours of the storm ending. And that's very important to note because that storm lasted 30 hours. So people were looking at it from the time the storm started, but from the time the storm ended, we did have all roads at least passable within that 24-hour window. But then it took us 2 to 3 days after that to go back in with heavier equipment because many of those smaller pickup trucks just could not push that volume of snow. So we had to go back in with heavier dump trucks, with payloaders, widen those roads, clear those intersections, clear those cul-de-sacs. And it did take a considerable period of time. I appreciate the understanding. I've obviously had many conversations with members of the town board as we move through this, as some of our residents were frustrated with that volume of snow and how long it took to widen those roads. And then when we did widen them, they had already shoveled their driveways out, so it pushed snow back into the end of the driveway. And again, I sympathize with that, but this is Long Island, where sometimes you get heavier snow seasons, and sometimes, like the past 2 years, you get much lighter snow seasons. So we will continue to work on each and every one of these storms. It looks like we could have some more inclement weather coming up the middle of next week, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on that. And we will be endeavoring, whether it is through Atlantic Salt or through those alternate vendors, to increase our salt supply on hand to make sure that we have enough for back-to-back storms. Being in a position where we only have enough for one storm is never a comfortable one. So we're working to increase that capacity on the ground as we move into additional potential storms upcoming. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you. Any
Thank you,
questions?
Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
This
you.
might be a good opportunity to appeal for private contractors, Dan.
I think I already did that. I think I covered that pretty clearly. If there is anyone out there who is watching this who is not yet signed up, please come down to 1140 Old Town Road, beginning of next week. See Linda. We will be closed on Monday for the holiday, but on Tuesday morning, come down. We'll get you signed up right away. We're always happy to have additional contract vendors. The more we have, the faster we can get that work done.
Again,
Thank you.
thank you. Good luck with the coming storms.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. We go on to the communications consensus agenda, on which there are 3 items.
Yes, there are 3 items on the communication consensus agenda. May I have a motion to accept these items?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We go on to the highway consensus agenda, which is 2 items.
All right, and Ed, if I could just ask you to just slow up a little bit moving between items because of this new system, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Because I'm setting the time clock on it, the timestamp on it. So yes, we have 2 items also on the highway consensus agenda. May I have a motion to accept these items?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we are on to the consensus resolution agenda. Who is handling that today?
I am supervisor. Thank you. I have resolution 0033 2001 to resolution 0042 2021. So moved.
I'll second that, Councilman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now I need to go down. There we go.
Okay, we'll move on to the resolution agenda, and I'm taking the first one, resolution 116 of 2021, authorizing to transfer a recharge basin to the Village of Port Jefferson pursuant to Section 72H of the General Municipal Law. This recharge basin is on Ellen Drive in Port Jefferson, and I so move.
Second?
Mr. Panico. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, Michael,
Go ahead.
Mike, you're next.
you're muted.
It says District 2 on it.
Uh,
No. 0117.
It's 4, Mike.
It's you, Mike.
0117, setting a public hearing, condemnation of property.
I'll do it. 0117, setting a public hearing condemnation of property for open space purposes, Country Road, Medford, New York, with the tax maps listed. This is Grand Medford Estates, LLC, and I so move.
Second.
Mr. Foley. That public hearing will be held on March 11, 2021 at 5:30 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 0118 is authorizing the.
Can I ask you, I need you to just pause.
Sorry.
Okay,
Madam Clerk, do you want us to wait for your go before we start the resolution?
yeah, maybe I could say next.
Okay,
Maybe
perfect,
Next is good.
a cadence going here.
Okay,
perfect.
next,
Just let me know.
Go ahead.
Resolution 0118 is authorizing the acquisition
What's
of
that?
property for open space in partnership with the County of Suffolk located at Sweezy Town Road, Middle Island. Suffolk County tax map numbers are provided. Owner
I see
is
Fred Hudak, Marion Johnson.
Livick Realty Corp.
All
Second.
those in favor? Yes, second.
aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Sorry,
Motion-
let me know.
All right, so I have a first, I have you, Jane, and I have Mr. Lavelle is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Resolution 0119 is award bid number 20057, Security Access Road and Fencing Phases 1 and 2 to the lowest responsible bidder, Macedo Contracting Services, Inc. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Resolution 120 of 2021, authorizing the Stony Brook Yacht Club to submit the required permit application to all the regulatory agencies for the repair and maintenance of existing docks located at the Stony Brook Yacht Club. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Oh, what happened here? I'm sorry. Motion carries. Next.
Okay. Resolution 121 of 2021 is a secret negative declaration authorizing a license agreement with Concerned Long Island Mountain, I have to read it on the other page, bicyclists, better known as Climb, for the Bike Skills Park at Percy Rayner Park, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
122 of 21 is authorization for the supervisor, deputy supervisor to submit a consolidated funding application, otherwise known as a CFA, to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Green Innovation Grant Program to fund stormwater infrastructure along Laurel Lee Drive in Center Merchants. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
123 of 21 is authorization for the supervisor, deputy supervisor to accept a grant award from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for funding for floodplain restoration in the Mastic Marshland Conservation Area, and to authorize the Commissioner of Finance to amend the 2021 capital budget in connection with the grant award. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
124 of 21 is authorizing the acquisition of land in the town of Brookhaven for property located on Bayview Drive, Mastic Beach, New York. South Shore Development Corporation is the owner. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Resolution 125 of 2021, authorizing the change order number 5 to contract number 201-90023, cell 6, phases 11, 12, 13, through budget neutral transfers. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Resolution 0126 of 2021, approval of capital professional service requisitions in excess of $25,000 for payment of 2021 various professional service requisitions in connection with the Department of Recycling and Sustainable Material Management, including landfill operations. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
127 of 2021 is amending resolution 2020-001 0292, authorizing award of contract services to be performed by Vinace Hangan. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution, I'm sorry.
Fine.
Okay.
Sure.
Resolution 0128 of 2021, authorizing change order number 3 to contract number 202-00038, E-1 flare system installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
129 of 21 is amending resolution number 2020-0476, entitled amending resolution number 2016-0723. This is the appointment of open space and farmland acquisition advisory committee members. I'm happy to say that Tom Muller has agreed to join the group, and this vacancy unfortunately was created with the passing of Andrea Spilka, who was a beautiful person, did a good job, not only for this town of Southampton, but also for all of Long Island. She will be missed, and I know that Tom Muller has the experience, and I wish him the best on this volunteer committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
130 of 21 is a bond resolution
Sorry,
authorizing the.
start again, Mr. Panico, please.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
130 of 21 is a bond resolution authorizing the issuance of $850,000 in bonds to pay the cost of design for the restoration of salt marshes at Southern Mastic Beach in and for said town. So moved.
Second.
That will be a roll call vote. So I'm sorry, Ms. Bonner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Laval,
Yes.
Mr. LaGuercio,
Aye.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Panico,
Yes.
Supervisor Romaine,
Yes.
motion carries. Next.
Resolution 0131 is 2021 various operating budget amendments for employee benefit adjustments. So moved.
I need a second. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Laval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Resolution 132 of 2021 authorized the retroactive attendance and administrative leave for Richard DeBraga, Assessor, Department of the Assessor, to attend the application of the 3 approaches to value virtual training courses on January 25th, 27th, and 29th, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Resolution 133 of 2021 is to authorize the Commissioner of Finance to amend the 2021 adopted capital budget to establish a new project, Cedarhurst Avenue, Medford Drainage, to be funded through a budget neutral transfer. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 0134 is an authorization to pay various invoices for goods and services provided without a professional service requisition contract or purchase order as required by the town procurement policy related to the Recycling and Sustainable Materials Management Department. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 0135 is 2020 various operating and capital budget transfers. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And resolution 013,
Wait.
Go ahead.
and resolution 0136 is 2021 various operating and capital budget transfers. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Supervisor, just before we start the public hearings, I just want to say real quick, tonight, I know the clerk's been working very hard on this. You heard, I think everybody in the audience, that we're working on a new resolution tracking system. Donna Land, our clerk, has been working with IT, Matt Sabatello, putting together a whole new resolution tracking system. So it's a little bit easier on our employees and certainly easier for residents to be able to track what we do here. About 6 years ago, the clerk and I worked on the system we presently have. We were one of the first townships to broadcast live on the internet, as well as Channel 18, and we changed a lot of what's going on, and she's been doing a great job. Tonight's really kind of our dry run. So I just want to, congratulate her for all of her hard work. We're going to have some bugs I'm sure we're going to work out, and Donna's learning how to do everything as we're going along here, but this is really our dry run tonight. But I just want to commend her and IT on their work on this. This is not an easy thing to do, to upgrade technology and make it better and make it easier. So I just wanted to commend you on the work that you're doing on it.
And what's happening is I'm actually time stamping this meeting. So when people go back to watch the video later, they can just simply click on a resolution. It will take them to the right portion of the video. And there's a little bit of a delay to set that timestamp each time. And that's why I just asked you to pause a second before I start reading the next resolution. And I'm sure by the next meeting, I'll figure out a way to cut that down somehow, but for now.
Tonight, I was the town council person working on the computers. The rest of my colleagues will be doing the same pretty soon, but I was kind of the guinea pig tonight to just track everything on what we're doing. I'll have some recommendations for IT tomorrow, just things that I think it could help us function. But looking at the system now, I think it's really a good upgrade on what we have. So I'm glad we're trying to work on this initiative.
And
Well,
what's,
it allows me to do the minutes as we're doing the meeting, which will make them available sooner to the public. So that's a good thing.
and what's the name of the system, Donna?
This is actually, it's a program within the civic clerk family of programs for municipalities. And this one is actually civic clerk. That's, they do our website platform is the same. So, there should be some consistencies going from,
It'll make it easy for people to watch segments of town board meetings without having to scroll through everything if they know the time period in which resolutions or comments were made. Which
and
will
we
make it easier to
we
track.
had no choice really to move to a new system because our prior system is no longer being serviced by the software company. There are no upgrades or anything, so we had to move to a new system.
Right. Okay, we finished the resolution agenda. We don't have any dates to set or any other business before we take up the public hearings.
No, I do not have dates. I don't have a folder. No dates, just that.
Okay, it's 5:29. We're going to start in 1 minute. What I would say is we only have one public hearing tonight. I would remind anyone speaking on the public hearing that they are to speak to the issue. This is not a wide open discussion. This is a specific public hearing. All the comments should be directed to this public hearing and the issues revolving. And the public hearing is to consider the application of Peconic Environmental Services for a town board special permit for a transfer station and town board waivers of a special permit criteria on property located on Peconic Avenue, Medford, New York. This is property that in 1971 was zoned light industry, and then in 1973 was zoned heavy industry, L2. And they do not need a zoning change, but they do need a special permit. And it is now 5:30, so I'm going to let our clerk open the public hearing.
Public hearing number 1 is to consider the application known as Peconic Environmental Services Corp. For a special permit on property located in Medford, New York. Legal notices for public hearings are published no less than 10 days, no more than 20 days prior to a public hearing in one of the legal town newspapers. My office has received a signed affidavit of publication from the newspaper. A secret negative determination will be submitted by the law department via resolution if applicable. I am in receipt of a letter from the Suffolk County Planning Commission determining it to be a matter of local determination with comments as well. The applicant was required to post the property as well as notify all property owners within a 500-foot radius of the subject property, and my office is in receipt of the affidavits of mailing and posting. The letter from Suffolk County Planning Commission is dated January 27, 2021. Dear Ms. Lent, pursuant to section 239I and maybe it's L and M, they're using lowercase letters, of the general municipal law, the following special permit has been submitted to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, is considered to be a matter for local determination as there appears to be no significant countywide or intercommunity impact. A decision of local determination should not be construed as either an approval or disapproval. Special permit, Peconic Environmental Services Corp., Medford, the address, the tax map number is listed, and their file number is also listed. The comments, first, generally accepted land use practice defines a special permit as a permission or approval granted an applicant to use land in a district for a purpose other than that generally permitted outright in that district. Special permit uses are intended to be very carefully controlled to avoid adverse effects of the use. The special permit use must show that the proposed use meets the categorical definition as a use type, and then that the specific requirements contained in the ordinance will be met. The board grants a special permit if the proposal meets the special permit standards found in the zoning regulations. The town of Brookhaven L2 district zoning category is intended by the town of Brookhaven zoning law as heavy industry. Heavy industry is generally an industry that involves one or more characteristics such as large and heavy products, large and heavy equipment, or complex or numerous processes. Section 85-581 of the town of Brookhaven zoning law indicates, quote, special permit criteria shall be required, end quote, for transfer a station. Or is that supposed to be for a transfer station? I think the applicant requests 3 variances from the special exception requirements, which are established as the minimum standards that shall apply. Section 85-581A, section 4, 5, and 9. 3 variances from the planning board and 3 variants from the BZA. This appears excessive and not in the spirit of the special exception concept or the Brookhaven town zoning law. The degree of nonconformity should be mitigated. Note, it does not constitute acceptance of any zoning action associated therewith before any other regulatory board. Signed, very truly yours, Andrew P. Freeling, Chief Planner.
Okay, thank you very much. To briefly explain this application, which I think most board members are familiar with, we have Beth Riley, our planning commissioner. Beth? You're muted, Beth. You're muted.
I know, Joe is gonna do the presentation.
Joe is going to do the presentation, okay? We have Joe Sanzano from our planning department. Joe, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I will share my screen. This site is located along the north side of Peconic Avenue, west of Buffalo Avenue in Medford. The majority of the site is currently zoned L2 industrial by a change of zone in 1973. A strip of land approximately 60 feet wide runs along the Long Island Railroad, which is currently zoned L1 industrial. The parcel is 6.05 acres and is currently developed with a salvage yard. The current land use has enjoyed a certificate of occupancy since 1979. The applicant seeks a special use permit in order to redevelop this site with a new transfer station. The proposed concept plan shows a new 38,775 square foot steel building to be used for the processing, and sorting of C&D materials. A Century Gatehouse is proposed along with inbound and outbound truck scales, truck parking, and container storage. The site is proposed to be screened with a landscaped front yard buffer along Peconic Avenue. The following waivers for special use permit criteria are required. The Century Building is 543 feet from the residentially zoned lands to the south. The proposed sorting and processing building is 75 feet from the MTA Long Island Railroad properties to the north. The proposed sorting and processing building is 67 feet high. Variances may also be required at the time of site plan review. And the 1996 Comprehensive Town Land Use Plan designates this site for industrial land use. With that, I will turn it over to the applicant for their further comments.
Okay, the applicant is Mr. Shea. I believe you're the attorney for the applicant.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so why don't you, and I see you have a team of people here, why don't you take it from there?
Thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. J. Timothy Shea Jr., Sir Tillman Ballin, 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York, for the applicant. With me tonight are Joe Klein, Ron Hill, and Pat Del Cole of H2M Engineering, who will be testifying in regard to this hearing.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to stop and ask the town clerk, since this is public, in all our public hearings, we ask people to raise their right hand and take an oath.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, also Mike Marinas may answer questions. He's not scheduled to speak, but I'd like to have him sworn in too, just in case.
Please, also, Mr. Marinas,
Ladies,
take yourself off mute so I'll be able to hear you both, please.
Michael, take yourself off mute.
Joe,
Please,
Pat,
could you-
Ron,
Joe, off mute.
So do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes, we do. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
okay, thank you. Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, the site in question, as Joe said, is a 6.05 acre lot with 5.45 acres being zoned L Industrial 2 and 0.5 acres along the north side of the property adjacent to the Long Island Railroad right-of-way being zoned Light Industrial 1. The application before the board is for a special permit with waivers from criteria for distance of structures to residentially zoned property and for height of a building to allow construction of a 67-foot high, 38,775 square foot transfer station building, a proposed 800-foot scale house, and a preservation of a 512 square foot office security building for operation and, for construction and operation of a construction and demolition debris transfer station that will be located exclusively on the L2 industrial property. The applicant meets all the special permit criteria listed in section 85-581A of the Brookhaven Code, except with regard to the waivers requested herein. Specifically, the applicant is in compliance with criteria that requires that all materials shall be stored, handled, unloaded, loaded, and transferred indoor on an impervious floor surface, that all toxic and hazardous materials are prohibited. We agree to periodic inspections from the Commissioner of the Department of Recycling and Sustainable Management of the town of Brookhaven and its designated employees. Further, the applicant has demonstrated adequate on-site parking is provided, so vehicles waiting to load and unload will not park on public highways. As you can see from the site plan, we have designated a substantial area in the middle of the site for parking of vehicles, and in cooperation with the town planning department, have agreed to locate the entrance gate on the west side of the property, a distance 150 feet. Oh, sorry, landlord. 150 feet north of the property line along Peconic Avenue to allow for adequate queuing onto the property for trucks at all times. The gate will only be closed after hours, so trucks will be able to pull into the large parking area in front of the building during operational hours. Thus, we meet the criteria. The applicant has provided a routing plan demonstrating no impact on residential streets. We have Ron Hill here from H2M Engineering who will provide testimony with regard to the routing plan and the fact that there are no impacts upon residential streets associated with this application. We meet this criteria based upon the routing plan and traffic study submitted in connection with this application, and such will be buttressed by Mr. Hill's testimony. Outdoor use of the property shall be limited to the parking and maneuvering of vehicles and storage of empty containers and shall be suitably screened. As indicated on our site plan, the truck parking area is located in the middle of the site and will be surrounded on 3 sides by fencing and on the 4th side by the proposed transfer station building. The fencing will screen activity from the east, south, and west sides of the property. Additionally, the applicant has proposed to supplement the landscape treatment in the front yard so as to further insulate the site and screen all activities and parking of vehicles from view, especially from properties to the south. The next criteria is on-street parking of vehicles, containers, and equipment shall be prohibited. The applicant has designed the site, with adequate parking areas for storage and parking of vehicles and containers, as indicated before, and agrees that it shall not allow street parking or storage of containers or equipment on a public road. The applicant acknowledges that all construction and demolition debris shall be removed within 3 days unless an emergency extension application is made and approved by the Commissioner of Recycling. We have identified the geographic sources of the C&D as required and shall not accept C&D from any truck or trailer without cover or tarp approved by the New York State Department of Transportation. The applicant understands and agrees that the permit is limited to the transfer and sorting of C&D debris, which will be transferred to a solid waste facility, and the applicant shall file quarterly and annual reports to the Commissioner as required. The debris will be shipped to Tunnel Hill in Ohio and an alternative site, which Mr. Klein will, which is also in Ohio, which Mr. Klein will elaborate on. As you can see, the site is substantially cleared except for the existing wooded areas along Peconic Avenue, which is proposed to remain natural and be supplemented with substantial landscaping. The site is currently CO'd for a junkyard and has been used and operated in such manner since 1979. There is also a CO for the 512-foot office security building located on the front half of the property. The junkyard activity is almost exclusively outside, as you can see. The applicant, if granted, would obviously cease the junkyard use of the site, and the transfer station activities will occur only inside the transfer station building. This is an obvious benefit of this application. The applicant proposes to close one curb cut located in the middle of the street frontage along Peconic and replace that area with new landscaping. The site plan provides 2 curb cuts, one for ingress and one for exiting along the westerly side of the property. The west curb cut with the ingress or entry only, and the east will be used for exiting only. The waivers are for distance of structures from residentially zoned property and for the height of the proposed transfer station building. With regard to those waivers, it is important to understand that the first waiver is for the distance of the transfer station building to the Long Island Railroad right-of-way property to the north, and not for the distance from the residentially zoned property located to the south on Ellen Court. All Long Island Railroad property in Brookhaven and the County of Suffolk is zoned residential. In this case, the proposed transfer station building is 75 feet from the Long Island Railroad property, and that is the reason and nature of this waiver. As such, and based on the fact that the property is owned by the Long Island Railroad and utilized solely for the purpose of railroad tracks and passage, it cannot be said that there is any impact upon residentially zoned property by the railroad in connection with the waiver sought for the transfer station building. It is also important to note that we placed the transfer station building greater than 750 feet from the nearest residentially used and residentially zoned property located on Ellen Court. Thus, the waiver for the transfer station building is not related in any way to the residentially zoned, residentially used properties on Ellen Court. The second waiver involves the 512 square foot office security building and its distance from the residentially zoned property to the south on Ellen Court. Although the waiver is for the distance to the residentially zoned property to the south, this waiver only applies to the 512 square foot office security building. I would submit that the grant of the applicant's waiver will have no negative impact upon those neighbors. I base this upon the following. Peconic Avenue in this area is zoned for industrial purposes, both to the east and to the west of the current site, and all along the southerly side of Peconic Avenue, abutting the residential neighbors. That a preponderance of those properties to the south on Peconic Avenue are developed with outdoor storage of cars, heavy equipment, and trucks. Most of these lots have been this way for many years. In fact, directly across the street from the subject site are a number of lots that are used in this way and have been for many years. Additionally, we propose to keep and enhance the existing trees and fencing and landscaping that are along the street frontage between the 512 square foot office security building and the southerly property line, which will further insulate the activities from those neighbors to the south. Eventually, I'll hand this presentation over to Joe Klein of H2M to discuss in detail the operation of how trucks will enter the site, pull into the building, and unload its C&D and leave the site. He will also testify that the transfer of C&D onto railroad containers will be done inside the building as required. Further, the only activity going on in the office for which the waiver is sought will be office and security related activities occurring inside the building. Thus, the waiver for the 512 square foot office building will not cause any impact upon the residential neighbors to the south. The last waiver is for the proposed 67-foot high C&D building. The need for the height will be discussed further by Mr. Klein, but in short, the board should understand the design and need for that height waiver. Pursuant to New York State DEC regulations and the Town of Brookhaven Code's special permit criteria, the material must be stored, handled, loaded, unloaded, and transferred indoors on an impervious surface. In order to meet that criteria within the operations of the transfer station, we require the height variance. Specifically, the C&D will be delivered by tractor trailers, which will dump, like a traditional dump truck, the C&D by raising its dump and depositing the material inside the building. When trucks, when fully extended to dump, they reach a height of up to 35 feet. The trucks must dump the material inside the building and then drive forward with the dump mechanism extended to full height in order to properly unload the C&D. As such, overhead doors must have a clearance of greater than 35 feet in order to avoid the truck hitting the overhead doors and damaging either the truck or the building. In this case, the overhead garage doors are, the door clearance is designed at 38 feet. Further, these trucks will be driving through the building at the same time as there will be C&D within the building, a payloader, and a crane and containers. After the trucks deposit their material onto the impervious floor and drive away, the payloader and excavator crane will be scooping up the material and placing it into containers. The scooping of the material and placing it into containers requires the ability of both the payloader and crane to maneuver through the building and to raise the transfer station debris to a height wherein they can place it into the containers. Thus, the building cannot be designed with columns or piers, steel piers, which would impede operations and which would be susceptible to damage or damaging the equipment and trucks. Thus, the applicant requires a clear span building with no columns or piers to interfere with the operation. Given the size of the building, a flat roof building would require columns or piers to hold up the roof. Thus, the only solution was to design the same with a pitched roof and trusses to support the roof for engineering reasons. The pitch must meet minimum standards to meet good engineering standards. This resulted in the design with a 38-foot high overhead door span for the tractor trailers to enter and exit, with an additional 3.5 feet of wall on one side of the building to arrive at a total wall height of 41.5 feet. In addition, there is the 26-foot high pitched roof, which will be pitched north and south away from the residences to the south and to the Long Island Railroad to the north. Thus, the nearest part of the building to the south is really 41.5 feet in height, sliding back and up to arrive at its 67-foot peak height. The 67-foot height is truly the minimum required given the operation of the transfer station. Before handling the presentation off to Mr. Klein, and I'm almost done, would like to address the comments of the Suffolk County Planning Commission in their local determination letter of January 27th, 2021. Normally, I would not respond to comments because they carry no legal significance as opposed to conditions. But in this case, I want to make it clear that in our opinion, the Planning Commission did not truly understand the nature of the waivers. And just to be clear, the waiver for the transfer station building is only for the distance to the residentially zoned Long Island Railroad MTA property. And the waiver for the office security building for a distance to truly residential zoned, residentially used property is insignificant given the reasons already provided. One cannot say that the Long Island Railroad property will suffer any impact as a result of the waiver, nor can there be any impact by grant of the waiver for the existing 512 square foot office security building upon the residential neighbors to the south. Additionally, the 67-foot high transfer station building will be over 750 feet from the nearest residentially zoned used property, as is in the nature and character of the neighborhood, which has a number of 50-foot high and 169-foot high building in the vicinity. Further, the grants of the waivers will clear the way to replace the legally existing junkyard where all activity occurs outside and exposed to the elements, to having all activity occur inside a building on an impervious surface in compliance with town and state regulations. Based on those facts, there is no impact in granting the waiver sought or the special permit applied for, and I will now hand the presentation off to Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor and members of the town board. My name is Joseph Klein. I'm a professional engineer for H2M Architects and Engineers, 538 Fort Hollow Road in Melville. I reside in Miller Place, and I'm here today to offer an engineering discussion for the requested waivers and also explain the site design and how we envision the site will operate. As Tim stated earlier, we're seeking 2 waivers for distance from residentially zoned property and a 3rd waiver for building height. A waiver is required for criteria 5 in this section of the town code, which states any structure located on the site shall be a minimum distance of 750 feet from the property zone for residential use. If you were to look at the aerial, the distance of the proposed transfer station building from the residentially zoned Long Island Railroad right-of-way is 75 feet. The distance of the existing security building on the site from the residentially zoned parcel of 8 Eileen Court, Medford is 543 feet. This existing structure will see little activity during a typical day and have a low impact on the project. The second item in which we are seeking a waiver from is criteria 9, which states the maximum height of the facility shall not exceed 40 feet. The proposed transfer station peak height is 67 feet. The need for the building to be this height is driven by several factors. The first factor driving the height of the building is simply the size of waste hauling dump trailers used to move waste in the region. The dump trailers raise their trailer portion, it extends about 35 feet high, this results in needing 38-foot tall doors, which is typical for facilities such as this one. The second factor influencing the peak height is there are no support columns in the center of transfer station buildings. These buildings are only supported at the perimeter of the building footprint. Structural steel is used to transfer the dead loads and snow loads to the foundation with large steel members above the eaves. This structural steel ends up being quite tall. It takes up a good portion of the space between the top of the doors and the peak of the building. Another factor that drives the height of the transfer station buildings is just the physical dimensions and bulk of the heavy equipment used to load the waste. The height is necessary to effectively load and pack the waste into rail cars. The machine anticipated at this site, for instance, can reach over 62 feet in the air. The final factor driving the peak height is roof pitch. This building has what is referred to as a 4-on-12 pitched roof. What that means is for every 12 inches of roof going horizontally, it then goes up 4 inches vertically. This pitch is needed to shed rainwater and snow from the top of the building. When you have a building that's 165 feet wide, and we use geometry, the building gains about 27 feet in height above the eaves and contributes to the necessary 67. I'm now going to discuss some of the design and operation of the proposed facility. We're proposing a large steel building measuring 235 feet by 165 feet, next to an existing railroad track that is designed to move construction and demolition debris in the most efficient manner possible from waste delivery trucks into rail cars. We're doing this to effectively manage a portion of the C&D, the construction and demolition debris waste stream in the region, and keep approximately 97 tractor trailers off local highways on a daily basis by instead utilizing 20 rail cars. We are proposing to handle C&D only debris at this facility. The material will be New York State Department of Environmental Conservation permitted construction and demolition debris, such as brick and glass. The site shall have 3 buildings when complete, including a small existing 512 square foot building near the entrance that will be retained and used as for security and monitoring the flow of vehicles into and out of the site. There will be the new transfer station building I mentioned, just mentioned, that ends up being 38,755 square feet. It'll have a tipping floor space that will be constructed to house the transfer operations. This building is large enough to allow trucks that bring debris to the facility to offload the material completely within the building. It will also be large enough to efficiently load railroad cars entirely within the building. The transfer station building was sized with input from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. With their input, we sized this building to be able to handle 50 tons per day per 1,000 square foot of available floor space. A third small 800 square foot scale house building shall be constructed immediately adjacent to and be attached to the transfer station building. From the scale house, 2 scales shall weigh the incoming trucks carrying the material and weigh them again before they leave the site, thereby determining the weight of material left at the site. The railroad will be utilized to remove the waste off of Long Island and ultimately dispose of the material at one of 2 Subtitle D landfills in Ohio. The first one being Sunny Farms Landfill in Fostoria, Ohio, and Tunnel Hill Reclamation in New Lexington, Ohio. If you were to look at the site plan now, delivery trucks enter the site from Peconic Avenue. They'll have over 600 feet to queue before the first inbound scale. Trucks will then enter the transfer building on the west side. The vehicle will dump on the tipping floor and then proceed to exit the building either to the south or east. Heavy waste handling equipment shall then be utilized to transfer the waste to waiting rail cars at the north end of the building. The loading of the rail cars will occur entirely within the building. The rail cars, once loaded, will be covered and staged to leave the property after midnight each evening. Regarding dust, construction and demolition debris transfer stations may generate small quantities of dust. This fugitive dust will be controlled by conducting the transfer operations entirely inside the new building. Should additional mitigation be required, this facility will have a water misting system installed. The misting system will create small water particles to suppress fugitive dust. Regarding odors, C&D, construction and demolition debris that is not exposed to the elements for long durations does not typically generate offensive odors. In the event odors do occur on the tipping floor, they will be effectively contained inside the new building walls and roof structure. Facility staff will clear the tipping floor of waste at the end of the day, and should additional mitigation be required, a final measure that could be utilized involves spreading an odor retardant on the tipping floor. There are biodegradable odor counteractants regularly used to control any odor generated on the tipping floor of waste handling facilities. Finally, regarding noise, the fully enclosed facility and its physical distance from receptors shall ensure that noise resulting from equipment and operations at the facility is not objectionable. The distance to the nearest residential property is over 750 feet from the transfer station. The on-site waste handling equipment will operate indoors and have modern insulated engine compartments and mufflers. The noise levels generated by the use should be less than the noise levels generated by existing truck traffic on Peconic Avenue and existing industrial activities along Peconic Avenue in the immediate vicinity. In addition, the building design itself will assist in mitigating noise. All of the steel walls will have insulation on the interior surfaces. It is also anticipated that the first 10 to 12 foot of building height will be constructed of 12-inch thick concrete and provide additional sound attenuation beyond the insulated steel panels. Thank you.
Next, we have Ron Hill. Ron, you're on mute.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board. My name is Ron Hill. I'm with H2M Engineers. I'm a senior traffic engineer. Our address is 538 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, New York. The Peconic proposed transfer station is being developed to provide services needed following the closure of the Brookhaven Town landfill. The Brookhaven facility, as you know, is located on Horse Block Road, just south of the proposed facility. And the trucks bringing material to that facility commonly use the major highways: Long Island Expressway, Sunrise Highway, Horse Block Road, Sills Road. These same roadways will be used for the new facility exiting from Horse Block Road onto Peconic Avenue. The site has been designed to receive traffic all traffic, including trucks, from Horse Block Road east of the site, and traffic exiting the site will be forced to turn east out of the site to return to Horse Block Road. This is demonstrated in the routing plan that has been submitted in accordance with town code. Only the roadway that will experience new traffic will be Peconic Avenue east of the proposed site. We have conducted a traffic study of the impacts of the proposed site on Peconic Avenue. As noted, all traffic to the site will come from the east and return to the east. No traffic will be added to Peconic Avenue west of the site where residents are. And thus, the proposed site will generate no traffic that will impact residential neighborhoods. We did traffic counts taken last year on Peconic Avenue, and it carries approximately 400 vehicles per hour during the day. By comparison, peak volumes on Horse Block Road at the same time are about 1,400 vehicles, while the volumes on Route 112 are about 1,600 vehicles per hour. Trucks as a percentage of vehicular volume on Peconic Avenue exceed 20%. During the peak hours of operation, the proposed facility will only generate a maximum of 27 trips in and 27 trips out. Based on the absolute use of the site, the absolute maximum use of the site. However, the site is expected on a daily basis to operate closer to the 50% range, and the percentage of the number of trucks to the facility will proportionally reduced to about that 50% of the 27 trips in and out. The site will only reach those maximum operating levels for short periods of time, such as after Superstorm Sandy, when there was a lot of cleanup of buildings destroyed during the hurricane. The site's access onto Peconic Avenue will operate at level of service B. The small amount of traffic added to Peconic Avenue can readily be accommodated and will not cause any undue traffic operating problems for any properties along Peconic Avenue. It is also worth noting that when the traffic counts were taken last year, they were taken while Horse Block Road was closed for the bridge reconstruction over the railroad. During this period, Peconic Avenue experienced elevated traffic levels due to the rerouting of traffic around the bridge closure. The additional detoured traffic is likely to be more significant than the traffic that the proposed site will generate. In conclusion, the proposed transfer station and trucks using the facility will not impact residential communities. The site access on Peconic Avenue will operate at level of service B, and the small amount of traffic added to Peconic Avenue will readily be accommodated and will have negligible traffic impact. Thank you. Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you. And now I'd like to hand it off to Pat Del Cole. You know what, Pat? Why don't we hold you? Okay. Mr. Supervisor, I think that closes our hearing.
Okay, I thank the applicant's representatives for presenting the information. We're going to open it to the public. Should there be any questions raised by the public about this application, you will have an opportunity at the end of the hearing to come back and address those questions.
You're gonna let them in?
Yes. So who is controlling the people who are coming into the hearing now?
Okay, so my attorney monitors are gonna
Okay.
let the public in one at a time. Right now, we
Lee
believe.
Ray. Okay.
Speaker.
Attorney Lee Ray. Okay. Very
Okay,
good.
and the first speaker is available.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh,
How
before
are
we
you all?
start, please, good evening. But could I please just swear you in if you don't mind raising your right hand?
Sure.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Absolutely.
Great. I'm going to set your clock here. I don't know that you're going to see it, but I'm going to see it. I have it on my phone. I'm starting the timer. You'll have 5 minutes to speak and I'll stop you when your time is expired.
Okay.
You
I will
can begin.
do great. I'll do my best to stay in that time. I am a person who stutters. So actually I might need a bit of extra time and I hope that you will allow that. So I am Abina Asari and I live in Brookhaven Hamlet. I feel that in the absence of an appropriate waste plan, there should be no special waivers extended for waste infrastructure at this time. Now, this is why I feel this way. This proposal at hand seeks to use rail to take out approximately 600,000 tons of C&D waste a year. Now, there are two other waste transfer stations on the dock in this area. And then of course we have the town's Asheville plan, which is in the midst of the SECRA process. So now here is the problem that I have. We do not know whether any of these proposals will actually bring us any closer to our waste goals here in Brookhaven Town, because those goals have not been articulated. And this, unfortunately, is on all of you here at the town board. You are the ones who have to take the lead in actually trying to develop a sustainable and regional plan for waste that prioritizes human life, clean air, and clean water. So I am a member of BLARD, which is the Brookhaven Landfill Action Group, and we believe, along with most of our neighbors and most of the country and most of the world really at this point that any sustainable waste plan must include efforts to actually bring down waste. And unfortunately here in Brookhaven town, that we don't have any measurable waste reduction targets. So the proposal at hand focuses on actually trying to move CND out, right? To dump hundreds of tons of CND into someone else's landfill. Has the town actually looked at efforts to use building, deconstruction, and salvage practices that are found in many parts of our country and are actually used to try to divert CND away from landfills? These strategies offer incentives, guidelines, and support to help contractors and builders actually bring down the amount of CND that ultimately gets landfilled. So there are strategies for this. There's an international green construction code, the IGCC, that I would urge you all to actually look at, that we have 14 states and over 25 cities across the country that have used these exact strategies to actually try to bring down CND targets. So why are we not among them, right? We live on an island. We have a garbage crisis. We have 50 years of complaints from North Bellport and other proximate areas about the harm associated with our mountain of waste, that which has included lots of CND. Now, what you all on the town board have been doing and are actually trying to do today is to allow the private sector to steer the ship in terms of how we all deal with waste. This business has a plan for rail waste, and so it's brought to us. Others have a plan for an ash fill, and so it's brought to us, and then we're meant to actually embrace it. Here is the problem with this strategy. The waste haulers and other business sectors have no incentive, right, to actually bring down waste. On the opposite side, their profit margins increase based on how much waste they are able to move. So my appeal to all of you, our elected officials, is that it's really time to roll up your sleeves and do the work to create a waste plan that is rationable and sustainable. That includes—
Excuse me one moment, ma'am, your time has expired. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds.
Thank you.
And then I will stop you.
Thank you. That actually includes clear targets for waste reduction. We are decades behind our peers in other cities and towns, and unfortunately, real human lives are being impacted.
Your time has expired.
Lack of vision and
I'm sorry, but your time has expired.
To turn over a new leaf.
All right, please bring in the next speaker.
Okay, are we ready for the next?
Do we have any other
Yes,
speakers?
the next speaker is in.
Okay, good.
You could take
I
the
don't.
oath.
I don't see the speaker, so
He's not showing his video, but I believe it's a he.
I don't see a phone number. I don't see anything. So
Amos 1 on your screen. It says
No.
public Amos 1, and he's just unmuted.
Yeah, I just started to unmute now.
Hello.
okay, I'm sorry, but I do not see you, so I don't know how I'm supposed to. Okay.
Oh, there I am.
There he is.
Okay, sir, can I, please, if you won't mind raising your right hand.
Sure.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So
Yes, I do.
please
Yes, I
state your
do.
name for the record.
My name is John McNamara, and I'm a resident of Rocky Point, New York. My concern, and this sounds like an environmentally friendly plan in the sense that it would remove trucks from the road, which is a positive. But I come at it from the point of view of environmental stewardship as well. And my concern would be the recycling of as much as possible of the brick and the glass. Been recently looking at some different towns across the country, and very interesting to me is the plan in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They've cut the waste that they use radically. One of the things that they've gotten involved in is really 3 different recycling systems, one of which, of course, we have in Brookhaven with our plastics and metal and paper recycling. But 2 other ones, one of which is a C&D recycling, which they're able to take a lot of the C&D that comes in and find alternative uses for it. And they've been very successful in it. And also what that does is generates more income for the town. The third aspect of their recycling is a reuse center, where in that reuse center, they take things that people normally throw out, you know, the plastic toys for the kids and that type of thing, furniture. And they establish a place where residents can come and, you know, take advantage of that. What they found, 2 things that have helped, they've generated more income for the town, for the community, and they've also increased the number of people they can employ. So I think that this is something that we should consider with regard to these waivers. The waivers seem benign to me, generally speaking. I like the way the company has taken into consideration the residents, the traffic patterns. It seems like they've done their homework there. But I think the concept of the recycling of the materials is something that we as a township should explore. I would be only too happy to work with my local council person, Jane, who's fantastic with this issue in terms of that.
Hi, John.
Hi, Jane. In terms of that recycling, you know, and working on a plan together where we can generate, you know, more income for the town and really be a positive impact in terms of the environment. One of the things of environmental stewardship in general is the idea of dealing with your own waste in your own community rather than transferring it to another community. I realize that's an ambitious goal for us, but I think it's something that we should begin to explore as a town. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Could we let the next speaker in, please? Thank you, John. I believe Mr. Hudak is next. Brett Hudak.
Mr. Hudak, hello, would you please raise your right hand?
Yes,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I'm going to start your clock here, 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you for the time. So I am Brett Hodak. I'm the president of the Medford Taxpayers and Civic Association. I believe I sent a memo to each one of the town boards, and Donna, I just sent it to you. I don't know. I failed to do that the other day. I apologize.
That's
so
how it becomes part of the record, if you send it to me.
it's there. You have it now.
Okay.
All right. So we as a civic met with Kevin Gershowitz several times concerning this project. All right. And I hear what the prior speakers have said, and with some degree, I am in agreement with them. The Medford Civic sees Peconic as one of our big issues. And as you know, we've been trying to do a land use plan for Medford. And I believe our last meeting was back in 2018. So lacking that, we have to take the approach of meeting with people like Kevin. And he was very, very forthcoming. We had very frank discussions and tried to work out what was best for this parcel. And we recognize that the parcel is zoned L2, and this is a appropriate use on the parcel. But what is also appropriate for the whole of Peconic and the Medford area in general. So the letter I sent you outlined basically 5 areas of concern. And I think Tim can come back on later and speak to this, but Kevin was basically in agreement with everything we outlined in our letter. All right, we met with him last Thursday, as a matter of fact, before I drafted that, and we went down each one of these points. So how these things get implemented is basically the crux of it. Is it an agreement with Kevin? Is it a condition of the special permit? Is it a covenant? All right, those are things that should be worked out. But what we discussed was first our concern for the residential community. And, you know, everybody knows the noises that emanate from Peconic Avenue. They do concern the surrounding residential homes. And we had asked that there be some limitation to the hours of operation there. All right. As part of our, that was the first item, as part of our land use plan, we were seeking some limitation to the overuse of Peconic. And right now we have a municipal solid waste transfer station under the auspices of Winter Brothers. This will now be a C&D transfer station. All right, and we are of the opinion that Medford has stepped up to the plate, all right, with the landfill, and these two should be it, all right, for the Peconic area. Now, again, lacking a full plan, we have to do a piecemeal, and I think Kevin was agreeable to have nothing other than C&D and put some restrictions on the future use should somebody consider municipal solid waste on his properties. And since he owns a significant portion of that road, I think that's appropriate moving forward.
Greta, I'm just going to interrupt you to say the special permit is only for C&D. If they wanted to do municipal solid waste, they'd have to come back. There'd have to be another full public hearing with notice, and it would have to be granted by the town board. So that's, you know, I'll speak for this board. That's not going to happen for this board.
Okay, we understand that, and we were just trying to put it out there as our areas of concern for the Peconic area there. The next item is, as you've noted, this property has been used as a junkyard since '73. All right. One of the fears is the containment of contaminants underneath the impervious flooring that will be constructed. Now, we think the impervious flooring is a good thing, but we won't want items trapped underneath this facility, all right, which might make its way to the groundwater, and we already have a groundwater situation in this area. So I think Kevin was agreeable to take soil samples for contaminant when he takes soil samples for the footings on the foundation, all right, for the soil densification portion of that. And we're agreeable to that. We want our community to know that nothing was encapsulated under this parcel. So I think that's important. And then, you know, we always hear, well, who manages this? Who keeps an eye on this facility? All right. There is in your town code a reporting control requirement to the Department of
Mr.
Recycling.
Hudak, I'm sorry, but your time has expired.
Right. The DEC and the town will work together on that.
Brett,
We'll talk more. And you can definitely speak with Councilman Fuller, your council person.
Brett, obviously, I read your email, and I'm glad that you and Mr. Gershowitz are communicating, which is key here. And I would love to be involved in anything you need for that, with that letter going forward too.
Okay, next public speaker, please.
Is that Catherine Johnson?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, would you mind raising your right hand, please, so I can take your oath?
Sure.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
I do. I'm going to start your clock. You'll have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Dr. Catherine Johnston, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak and to read a letter written on behalf of the City of Astoria, Ohio, the Concerned Citizens Group, and the Greater Astoria Environmental Coalition. I'll begin. We are a small rural community in Ohio that's been suffering for over a decade from this massive landfill that is actually owned by a foreign investment company. Their only concern is profit since they live far away. For years, we have been fighting for clean air and water.
Excuse me, doctor,
Yes,
are you going to speak to this application?
yes, this
Or are
is
you,
community.
because you have to speak to this application. This is not public comment.
Yes, ma'am,
So
this is,
I don't know exactly how a landfill in Ohio ties into the Dershowitz, and my comments won't take your,
I've stopped the clock.
the clock is stopped.
okay, thank you. Yes, this is the community where our waste will be transferred to, according to the proposal.
Thank you, doctor.
You're very welcome. Okay, so I'll start the letter again. We are a small rural community in Ohio that's been suffering for over a decade from this massive landfill that is actually owned by a foreign investment company. Their only concern is profit since they live far away. For years, we've been fighting for clean air and water. As a doctor, a mother, a business owner, and a homeowner in the area, I have felt it my duty to do anything I can to protect the health and welfare of the citizens here, as well as future generations. Our health and property values are deteriorating as a result of this landfill that has made the news over the past few years. There's little to no oversight over this specialty waste that flows in at the rate of 7,000 tons per day by rail. There are hundreds of EPA notices of violation, as well as class action lawsuits and 2 attorney general consent orders against them. They admit to mismanagement and cutting corners. My plea for you is to reconsider who you are doing business with. We fully
I'm
understand.
going to stop you, doctor, for a second. We're
Yes.
not doing business with anyone. This is an application by a private owner to build a transfer station within our town.
I'm
We're
just
not-
reading the letter that was written on their behalf. I'll tell you when the letter's over. This is still in her words. We fully understand that your construction and demolition debris must go somewhere, and we do not want to see it pollute another community if we stop it from coming here. My suggestion is to send your C&D debris to a landfill with an actual C&D debris permit. Our landfill has an MSW permit. In Ohio, that includes a loophole for C&D debris, which means they do not follow the rules or laws set up to regulate C&D debris landfills. When you mix MSW with C&D debris, the hydrogen sulfide gases are then amplified. This causes a huge amount of greenhouse gases that affect us immediately. I'm suggesting that you consider shipping your C&D debris to a responsible landfill that has a standalone C&D debris permit. This could make a huge difference in the amount of pollution you're creating with the breakdown of gypsum drywall and other harmful VOCs contained in the C&D debris. We all must do our part. Please consider if saving money is worth hurting other Americans and the planet. If it costs a little more to use a C&D debris landfill that follows the laws and respects human health, it's well worth it to know that you're not shipping your pollution to harm your fellow Americans. Money cannot always be the bottom line. We appreciate your time and attention to this very important matter. That's the end of their letter. And I also just want to thank you all for hearing that really moving and reasonable statement from a person who cares as much about her community safety as we do about ours. Before ending, I just want to emphasize her profound and very practical point that cutting cost is not always prudent, it's not always responsible, and it's not always decent. It's my hope that we do not resort to temporary or partial fixes and only push our shared waste problem down the line or out of sight. This is a vitally important issue to everyone here, and we know that we actually have to get this one right. It's my hope that our decisions here reflect the real intelligence and integrity of Long Islanders by respecting the lives of both our neighbors here and elsewhere. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Could we have our next speaker, please? No, that's not him. Mr. McNamara has already spoken.
Yeah, they're working on it,
Oh, okay.
Madam Clerk. 1 second. All right, we have Kelly Lang.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, would you please, Kelly, would you mind raising your right hand so I can swear you in? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
And can I, before I start the clock, is the law department Annette taking the addresses of the speakers? Because usually they fill out a card, which would have that information.
We don't only have email addresses.
Okay, so Ms. Lang, and I'll do this moving forward. If you could just state the hamlet that you're from, please, before you start your remarks.
The hamlet, I live in Medford and I live in Avenue. Is that what you need?
That's fine, yes.
I don't have comment like the previous speakers. I think I'm concerned because I live obviously to the south of this. My concerns are, health concerns with dust and noise. I know some of the other speakers have spoken to the fact that, the residents here deal with noise from Peconic Avenue. And what I'm hearing as I'm watching what's happening on Peconic Avenue and now this future, this proposal, to me, it sounds as though we're sort of shifting the landfill that's filling up to Peconic Avenue in a way. So I'm really just seeking some clarification and I know some of this you said, so forgive me, I'm just trying to digest it all. It's a lot of information to digest. So you're talking nearly 2,000 tons a day, which how many trucks a day do we think that is going to be to move that much material? Can you say that again? Somebody
The
said.
applicant would have to answer. This is not something the town is doing. This is a private applicant.
Right.
And they will take your questions down and they're going to come back after.
Come back at the end and they'll attempt to answer.
Okay. So if I just go through all my questions, then they'll come back and readdress them.
Yes, because we can't. We're not the applicant.
Okay. So with all of those trucks, I know somebody said where they're stopping.
Please mute yourself.
The building that is closest to Peconic Avenue, which is the closest building to the residential area, we're saying is a gatehouse or an office. And so how far in from the road are the trucks stopping? Are they like stopping and starting? Are they stopping and idling? Because I'm worried about, that noise, that exhaust. Are trucks only moving in a forward motion? Because anyone who lives anywhere near Peconic Avenue knows that when the trucks back up, that beeping that they have to have can be batty. So is there any backing up of any of the trucks? The noise of tipping these trucks, I know we said, can we clarify, is it 12-foot concrete walls? Are there any doors or windows on the south side as well? I'm just worried about the noise coming through from there. We talked about dust suppression, and I know you talked about water to suppress the dust, but if we have an impervious tipping floor, where is this water filled with dust going? Where is that being collected? And they also discussed the landscaping. So I'm confused that if we're talking about landscaping a barrier to mitigate for the residents to the south side, by landscaping, you're almost admitting that there is going to be a problem that needs to be mitigated. So I'm confused as to that piece of it as well. I already answered that. Don't know if I had, is there anything else besides hours of operation? Sorry, I have notes all over the place. Oh, the train, they said the trains would be departing after midnight. Like that's the middle of the night for us residents. So I'm not sure what kind of noise we can expect from trains coming and going after midnight. Is it one train car? Is it 10 train cars? Like how many train cars and what kind of noise are we talking about there?
Confirm it's being loaded inside.
Yes, and no, they did confirm. And all of this has to be inside. If we do move forward and we find that there is, like, as a resident, how can we then like take action to protect ourselves if things are not being loaded inside and we're finding excessive noise and dust? Like, then what's our, like, are we just out of luck? I guess that's my question. I think that was all of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Next speaker.
Okay, the next speaker is in. Yep. Donna,
I don't see them yet.
the oath? It's Karen Mordecai.
As soon as I see her, I can do that.
To he, believe. Only speak once.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
No, we can hear you, but I don't see you, so please.
Oh,
wait.
here, I'll fix that. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, everyone?
Okay, so before you begin, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, thanks.
I'm setting your clock for 5 minutes. It's starting now.
Great. Thanks for having me. My name is Karim Odakan. I'm a primary care doc. I'm also a member of the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group. I'm also a former city planner. So my question is, why is there no real public information available in advance of this public hearing? I hear Ms. Lang's comments, and a lot of her her questions are actually in the application that has not been posted online. In order for me to get basic information about this plan, I had to make a FOIL Freedom of Information request, and I'm glad that I was able to receive it, but this was only after emails to the town attorney, Councilman Foley, the town clerk to complain. And as you all know, this is a town of 480,000 people. Why can't the public review information about traffic analyses, how many trucks are there, how much waste, where it's going? From the town attorney's comments, she doesn't even recognize that this waste is going to Fostoria and New Lexington, but this is actually in the application that was submitted. This stuff should be online. The town posted a site map and some brief overview, but that's insufficient. And even that was only posted less than 24 hours before this meeting. This lack of public information available prior to a public hearing speaks to the lack of public input in the creation of any waste management planning. The applicant, Peconic's application states, quote, the construction of this proposed facility is consistent with the goals of the Brookhaven Solid Waste Management Plan. I'd like to clarify to the town board that the town of Brookhaven has no DEC approved local solid waste management plan, despite receiving important comments and concerns from New York State Department of Environmental Conservation 3 years ago on its draft 2012 to 2022 plan. We are 1 year from the end of the 10-year planning period, and there is no DEC approved final local plan. There is no regional plan. We have a town solid waste ad hoc committee, of which Mr. Gershowitz is a member, the principal of Gershow Recycling and Peconic, whatever this is called. The ad hoc committee was created through a resolution mandating, quote, open and efficient communication pertaining to current and future solid waste disposal procedures with its constituents, end quote, and quote, community input and suggestions to improve the process, unquote. Here we are 6 months later, asked to comment on approvals for a major waste infrastructure project with no clue what the ad hoc committee worked on for the past 6 months, shrouded in secrecy. In fact, when we asked ad hoc members for community engagement, the response is, quote, the committee was never asked to do community outreach, nor do I believe it's our responsibility. Doing community outreach and listening to community concerns is the responsibility and the role of town elected leaders and town agencies, unquote. Yet here we are, holding a public hearing on a major infrastructure project with no public information on the plan, no public local or regional waste plan, no public participation in the town's ad hoc solid waste committee. The town and our elected leaders, all here in front of us today, refuse to have any public conversations on waste management planning, yet to continue to function as the largest importer of waste in downstate New York. This is not 1971, it's 2021, 50 years later, and the public wants a transparent, public, equitable, and sustainable solid waste plan before we discuss any approvals for major waste infrastructure plans. The other question I have, and this is a question for Peconic, is, construction and demolition debris can contain lead, mercury, asbestos. The town of Brookhaven's own waste transfer station in Yaphank has multiple radiation incident reports involving construction and demolition debris. When we as neighbors of this transfer station asked the town of Brookhaven, including Supervisor Romaine, which I did in December, and Councilman LaGuarcio, about our concern for contaminants in C&D, we are referred to New York State DEC. And our councilman refuses to pick up the phone or answer any emails regarding this. So how will this C&D be monitored, policed, and controlled as part of this plan? And can you tell us how radioactive waste will be screened as it makes its way in the facility? Because we have radiation incident reports from the Brookhaven transfer facility in Yaphank involving construction and demolition debris. Anyway, thanks, that's it.
Okay, the next speaker will be Maya Schindler, and they're bringing her in right now.
Hi.
I don't see you yet. Now I do. Yes, hi.
Hi.
So if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And would you please state the hamlet you live in before starting? And I'll start your clock. You'll have 5 minutes.
I live in Brookhaven Hamlet.
Thank you.
Thank you all for hearing me. And my question is also regarding this topic that we're talking about. So my question is in regards to the C&D that we've been a bunch of us have been talking about, and the C&D that has caused so much complaint here in Brookhaven and continue to, and my question is that, one of my question is, who are we passing the buck to? The proposal that we just heard states that the C&D will be sent to 2 landfills in Ohio. Yes, one is in Sunny Farm landfill that you guys, one of you mentioned, and one is in Fostoria, Ohio, which actually has a Facebook page about the health concern that is including issues with groundwater contamination and contamination leachate and incest odors. And then the Tunnel Hill in Tunnel Hill in New Lexington, which is in Appalachian, Ohio, and it's a converted mine. In 2019, Sunny Farm landfill, which is one of the landfill that is being talked about here, was ordered to pay $3.7 million to resolve violation in past water pollution, solid waste and air pollution control laws, as well as fine for underreporting and mischaracterizing fees associated with waste entering its landfill facilities. Our concern here is that there is no structure by which equity and environmental justice concern are brought into the process by which these proposals are evaluated. The town asked Gershow where the waste for these transfer station was going. Gershow replied, Sunny Farms and Tunnel Hill. The question remains, what did the town do with this information? Did you look at the residents of Sunny Hill Farms and that are harmed by these landfills, odors, and contamination, just like your residents, us, and around us? Has the town offered any guidelines for companies proposing waste transfer stations that deal with the end of the destination for this waste? If not, there should be. There has been lots of talk about equity and environmental justice among the town board recently. but it often seems to be just words, empty words at that. What are we asking for is for policies and procedure to make sure that concerns about equity, human life, disproportionate harm, and exposure to polluting merchandise are part of the process when these waste proposals are created, evaluated, and ultimately passed or rejected. Environmental justice is not just words on papers. I ask you guys to step up to the platform and be the leaders that you were asked to be. You are our elected officials, and I ask you to please do the jobs that you are elected to do. Thank you all, and thank you for listening. That's all.
Yes, Michelle is the next speaker. I'm sorry, I don't have your last name. The clerk is going to swear you in.
Sure, it's Michelle Mendez.
Will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you please state the hamlet you're from when you start your remarks, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Sure, my name is Michelle Mendez. I'm a BLARG member and Mastic resident. I'm here tonight because I really would like some input regarding the conflict of interest that seems to be occurring right now. Mr. Gershowitz happens to be Supervisor Romaine's biggest individual donor, and Supervisor Romaine also nominated Mr. Gershowitz to be on the ad hoc committee, which is for the Brookhaven Town's waste future. So with those two things alone, there is a conflict of interest. Yet we are also here today adding to that conflict of interest. It is as though the town of Brookhaven is now playing a game with the public as to how much conflict of interest can we have before the public really starts to notice. So I just really want that to be on the table and to get some input, because that seems a little bit sketchy to me. That is all.
Schubert, I believe we're bringing in Don Schubert, Madam Clerk.
Hello, Don.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Could you please raise your right hand?
Yes, it is.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Just state your hamlet. I know what it is for the record.
Don Schubert, Medford Hamlet, and the Medford Taxpayers and Civic Association. I just like to follow up on a few things that Brett had said to get it across. As part of our own Hamlet study, these articles, we've been doing this part has gone on for Conic Avenue for well over a half a century, and we'll still end up being the garbage capital. So we were asking for a few, I'm sure it's in the letter, a cumulative impact study of all these different operations that we have on the street. Of course, it's not legal to go ahead and selectively segment and take each one as a separate operation, when in fact, many of the businesses are all connected, and a lot of them along Peconic Avenue, Long Island, Cedarhurst, and whatever about our community are owned by the same people. So we need to do something to our cumulative impact to see what it's done, and that involves, we know we know there's problems there in the past and currently with air quality, with fires that we've had. Okay, the water and what Brett was referring to about the soils test, and not so much just on the building itself. And I did ask Mr. Gershwitz, and he thought you consider it about having a plastic liner, but we need testing of the soil samples all about the property and the adjacent properties, because they're all south flowing streams that go there. If they are part of our drinking water, they're part of our salt water and fresh water in the bay. And we like the cluster. When we have building, we like to cluster and put everything in one spot. Okay, so we have a difference or more habitat. But here, by clustering, we've clustered the industrial in one area of the town, as well as we have the major commercial and industrial zoning in the whole town of Brookhaven. And we're surrounded by the old dump, the new dump, and everything in between. And so there needs, besides Medford's own comprehensive plan, we worked on two. They need to be developed, they need to be accepted, and they need to be codified in town law. And we have a waste management plan that's still going, as one of the speakers said, selectively, one step at a time. And so we'd ask them to use a common sense. The common sense, even the idea of sumps on Peconic, it seems like it only brings the toxins closer and more faster into the groundwater that we have. So I'd even question where, how even that. So the clustering, the contamination is concentrated, and we need something. We have Sills Road, Cedarhurst, Long Island Avenue, the expressways there. The air quality is known to be one of the poorest in the whole state, Suffolk County. It usually is number one, and we'd like to see something done about it. And you can't keep approving one item at a time. And I would just hope that you could see that. I don't think the truck mentioned 25 or 27. We don't know if that's an hour or a day. I think it wasn't mentioned here. So I think it's an hour, but I'm not sure because Mr. Gershow spoke to us about it. So, we've just gone through outdoor storage on 60 some odd acres. We've just gone through 90 megawatt battery storage on Horse Block Road. These main corridors, and that was the purpose of our last Hamlet study, were the main corridors. And I think that's what we need to do. And I think that the people on the board care, but this has gone on since Ed Romaine and I had I had a lot more hair and I was a lot younger anyhow, that's for sure. And it's about time we solve the problem. And it can't be on one community to solve it. Okay, thank you and Happy New Year. And be well, everybody.
Okay, our next speaker is in.
Mic check, 1, 2.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
There she is, Madam Clerk.
Donna, you're on mute.
So sorry about that. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
All right, I'm gonna just please state the hamlet you're from, and I'll start your clock when you do that.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Shoshana Hershkowitz, and I live in South Setauket. And I'll keep my remarks brief. My concern is really about how this proposed waste transfer station fits into our regional plan. We know we've got a solid waste crisis on Long Island, and we have the DEC saying that the LIRPC is dealing with the regional waste plan. And meanwhile, the LIRPC is saying that there's no waste planning happening during COVID. But in the meantime, we've got these 4 major waste infrastructure projects going through the pipeline. And 3 of those are within the town of Brookhaven. We've got Yaphank, we've got this one right here in Medford, and the landfill, as well as Brentwood in the town of Islip. So my concern is we need a series of public hearings, not just one today, but there needs to be a real public input in these waste proposals, because otherwise this just becomes a transaction between business and the town board without the robust public input that it deserves, because it will impact our lives down the line. And that's all I had to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you. And who are you letting in? Okay, and we have our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
All right, so I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, but when we're done, if you would state your full name and your hamlet before you begin. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You will have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Timothy Karsich. I am a resident of Center Reach, and I am representing the Suffolk County Democratic Socialists of America, as well as the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group. And I'm also a special education teacher. My suggestion is that any proposed waste transfer station should have a per ton payment to the host school district to offset the negative impact on property values and air quality associated with a waste transfer station, which in turn impacts school funding. This station is expected to receive up to 2,000 tons a day, 6 days a week, 52 weeks a year, which would be $624,000 a year for each $1 ton host school district fee. A 5-ton host fee could generate $3 million a year for the Patchogue-Medford School District. These host fees are a standard in sitting waste transfer stations, but often just end up in general funds, as is the case with the existing Brookhaven transfer station. In this case, the host fee should be targeted to the school district. As we read this week in Newsday, the Patchogue-Medford School District is facing a $1 million state aid cut, and the school district should be at the table in discussing this deal. That's my comment. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, that is the end of the speakers. We have a number of times asked other people if they wanted to speak and gotten no response. So I believe you could turn it back to the applicant at this time.
Okay, if the applicant will come up, there were some questions raised. If they want to address those questions now, that would be good. Mr.
Well,
Shea.
again, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, I'll try and answer these. I don't know if I can get them in order, but I'll try and answer them. First, I think let's start with Ms. Lang, because she's the only person who spoke, who was in close proximity to Peconic Avenue as a resident. The 1,800 tons a day of material is not what is anticipated. The DEC in their application. I'm sorry, what?
What is anticipated?
And well, okay, so the 1,800 tons a day is a maximum allowed by the DEC, and you have to put a maximum on that allowed. The actual tonnage that is expected per day is somewhere between 700 and 800 tons a day. There will be exceptional days every once in a while where, where circumstances provide where we will accept more, but we will be topped out at 1,800 tons a day. It's further anticipated that there will be 27 trucks per hour going in and out. Okay, and that was a question that was asked. Right now, I think that Mr. Hill testified that there's about 400 vehicles a day, an hour, going up and down Peconic Avenue, trucks mainly. So it's not a significant increase in the amount of trucks. The trucks should be only moving forward. There should be no reason for them to go into reverse. They are driving into the building. They are dumping in the building, and they are going straight out of the building off into the other scale. So there should really be no or very little reason for any trucks to reverse. As far as idling, trucks are not allowed to idle past 5 minutes under New York State law. We have designed the site in such a way that that trucks will be able to access the site during all operational hours inside the parking areas. We've designed it with a large interior parking area for trucks that have to wait in order to dump. With regard to dust suppression, there will be a mister provided. It's a mister. It's not a hose. It gives a very gentle mist if you have a dust activity that comes through, will not lead to large puddling or anything like that. And every day at the end of the day, the operator will be cleaning the floor so that he can start new with a new on the new day. With regard to landscaping is always used by planners and site plan people in mitigating any potential or perceived impacts. They don't even have to be real, but we regularly engage in landscaping on almost every single project in order to, soften the look of any building, whether it be an industrial building, whether it be a commercial building, or whether it be residential buildings next to existing residential buildings. So it is not in any way unusual. It is used as mitigation on a regular basis, and this is no different than that. With regard to the pickup, we anticipate that is the Long Island Railroad jurisdiction, but we do not anticipate more than 1 or 2 pickups in any particular night. I would think it would be 1 because all of the cars will be joined together. So I don't think it will be more than that. I think that covers those comments. With regard to noise.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Ms. Lang had 2 more questions that she's put in the question and answer.
Okay, go ahead.
She wanted clarification about trucks traveling to the west of Peconic.
Trucks will not be permitted to travel west of Peconic. Our routing plan requires all trucks to come east of Peconic, come in from the east and exit to the east off of Horse Block Road. This also makes complete sense. Route 112 at the other end of Peconic is a traffic nightmare. Trucks are not going to want to go down that way. Here, Horse Block Road has been reconstructed. The bridge over Horse Block Road has been reconstructed and is now open for business. It is the fastest way to get back onto the Long Island Expressway. If you're going to travel eastbound, you're going to get to Sills Road, and you're either going to make a left up Sills Road or you're going to make a right south down Sills Road to access Sunrise Highway. So it just makes complete sense. Plus, all truck drivers will be instructed that they must go eastbound, and westbound traffic will not be allowed.
Tim,
Okay, and the second
you
question.
should know that as you proceed west on Peconic Avenue, there is a weight limit.
That is
that
correct.
should be enforced by the Suffolk County Police Department. And if someone sees a heavy truck going down Peconic Avenue, west, I think, of Buffalo, they should contact the Suffolk County Police.
The second question she had is about the mister.
Yes.
And what would happen to that water?
Again, that water will be cleaned up at the end of every night. So it will be mopped up and it will be disposed of properly according to law. But we don't anticipate to be about a lot of water. It's going to be basically just a little bit of water. It's not, the mister isn't on all day. It'll be only used when needed. Let's see. With regard to the doctor from Ohio, we are now apprised of the comments that she has made. I will talk to the client and we'll weigh our options moving forward. Obviously, we don't want to contribute to anybody else's problems, but I can't make a decision for my client today. I'll have to talk to him about his options moving forward. With regard to Mr.
Tim, say is, obviously if we have to ship product out of state, whether it's waste or construction debris, where do you get those options from? You just don't pull it out of the air.
No, you can't. You can't pull it out of the air, and you have to think about what your options are. There's certain landfills and certain areas that will accept C&D material. There's certain areas that won't, and Long Island is going to be one of those ones that eventually probably will not be accepting C&D. So that we need a solution to that problem. As some of the speakers said, we have a garbage crisis here. This is not a major project in this grand scale of things. It's 6 acres. It's going to be a good project. It will help with getting C&D off of Long Island. It will help with the garbage crisis. It's just a small step in the right direction. And we are only talking about this particular project. Our application is only for this specific site, which is properly zoned and only for the special permits that we're requesting with the waivers.
To the question, I believe the New York State DEC actually sets a list where this waste can go. I know when we're dealing with, when we knock down houses with asbestos, it has to go to a specific spot, be taken care of and what have you. I believe it's the same response right now, that it has to be approved by the state to dispose where we can dispose.
We have to dispose at licensed facilities.
Yes.
They have to be licensed to accept this material. One other, somebody else said, what about dangerous materials? We are not accepting anything that would be dangerous, radioactive or otherwise. The loads will be inspected. If anybody tries to sneak anything past us that would be unacceptable material, it will be rejected. We will have it put back up on the truck, and we will not accept material from that contractor in the future.
Hey, Tim, it's Mike. Sorry. Tim?
Yes.
My question is this. My concern is that there wouldn't be a backup of material waiting to be shipped. Is there enough capacity on the Long Island Railroad tracks after midnight, as someone had suggested that that's the time, or indicated that that's the time it would be shipped, that there wouldn't be material waiting to be loaded and taken away because there isn't the capacity on the railroad?
We've sized the site, and the client has been in constant contact with the Long Island Railroad. There's going to be more than adequate capacity to service this transfer station.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shea, how would you know if it was radioactive? How would your client know if it was radioactive?
Well, all we can do is look at it and see what it is, okay? And there is acceptable C&D material, and there is unacceptable C&D material. And if we see anything that is in any way unacceptable, if somebody's going to try and slide MSW past us, we are not going to accept it. We are going to take that material, put it back up on the truck, and Mr. Gershowitz has indicated to me that he will not accept material from those contractors in the future.
I have a question for Annette. Annette, as town attorney, and this was a question, Tim touched on it earlier. If the town board did not like the location which was given in the application, where the materials were being brought to, does the town board have legal standing to deny a special permit?
No, and I wanted to say that before, but I wanted to let the speakers all have their time. Basically, that involves interstate commerce. You know, we have certain jurisdiction. The town board's jurisdiction here is land use. The DEC has jurisdiction over this site. When this material travels interstate, that's a different jurisdiction. So there's different entities that have jurisdiction. What's before this town board is the land use and, you know, listening to the public, and is this a proper use of the property? And
so those people that are complaining about the landfill where it's going in Ohio, when they complain to the town, they're not only in the wrong pew, they're in the wrong church. They need to go to the agency that regulates that, which is not within our purview. Is that correct?
Correct, but the applicant has said they will look into that, so that is a good thing. And in regard, there's another question in the queue if everyone else is finished with that.
No, I just want to follow up on the question.
Yeah,
and
sure.
to the supervisor's point, part of the frustration, and we all see it as elected members of this board, is that the DEC in many ways takes a hands-off approach to a lot of aspects when it comes to solid waste. And I'll give you another example. And I've heard from my colleagues, and I've been taking this way to work every morning. I've gone down Peconic Avenue in advance of this application, but I've been taking Horse Block Road. And the lack of regulation with regard to mulch and compost in the, I believe, the Part 380 regulations, we experience it out in Manorville, in a portion of my district. This has been going on and on and on in the state. I understand that the entity that currently exists, Great Gardens, I'm not sure what their corporate name is, they've cleared 40 acres of property. I've gone by now for the last couple of days, and it smells. It smells when they turn those windrows. And I know the supervisor has called for more leadership when it comes to the DEC taking an active role. We've yet to see that. And I think what we are the most accessible level of government, where we've heard from people tonight, where we can have people come and speak. And if there is a way in which we all can get the DEC to do more on many of these levels, I think it would be advantageous for everyone.
Councilman Panico makes an excellent point. We've received a lot of complaints. People think it's the landfill, when in fact it's the expansion of the composting facility, Long Island Compost, which has almost doubled, if not tripled in size in recent weeks, and has all this compost that they're turning. And anyone that's lived next to a compost pile knows when you turn compost, it smells.
And I have a question for Mr. Shea, because we dealt with this with regard to the misting system back. This predates Councilman Legurcio, when Councilwoman Keppert was on the board. At the fence line along County Road 21, a misting system was installed as a means of trying to resolve a dust and odor issue, and it was virtually worthless as to what occurred. My question for you, Mr. Shea, is whether or not that misting system is going to be inside the building and being kept from being frozen in inclement weather, or is it going to be outside? And if inside the building, will it truly do its job in keeping down the fugitive dust that was referred to by Mr. Klein?
Absolutely. Like we said earlier, all activities for the transfer station will be inside the building itself, which will contain most, if not a substantial amount of the fugitive dust or potential fugitive dust. The misting system is kind of like a fallback and a safety guard. It will be inside the building. And if there are days where there is some fugitive dust, it will be employed. It will only be inside. It will work with standard plumbing, much like a sprinkler system would, and we feel between the fact that all the activities are going to occur inside and the fact that, and being moved from outside to inside, unlike what's happening now at the junkyard, and the misting system, that we will more than adequately handle any dust and fugitive dust on this site. I would like to go backwards. I have been apprised that there will be radiation detection equipment located on the inbound scale.
That was one of the question that I was going to ask. Okay.
As there is, I believe, in our landfill.
Yep. And there's another question in the Q&A. Mr. Shea, Peconic application states the construction of this proposed facility is consistent with the goals of the Brookhaven Solid Waste Management Plan. What plan are you referring to?
We are referring to the last plan that was submitted to the DEC. Town of Brookhaven, does need private industry to help with the C&D transfer of material. The only solution here that's going to work is to have public and private solutions, private enterprise taking in the C&D and transferring it off Long Island. Otherwise, it's going to be a continuing problem. Furthermore, what this will do, it's a small step. It's not a major, this is a 6-acre lot. This is not going to solve all the problems, but it's going to be a help. But if this board or anybody turns down good transfer station applications on properties that are zoned for it, and where there will be no impact on anybody, you're going to have a problem. Contractors, the people who do the construction of houses, the people who do the remodeling of houses, they're going to need a place to be able to take their commercial construction and debris.
Tim,
if they don't have that place, they are going to dump things on the side of the road. They are going to take the best way out. And this is actually proactive environmentally. And if it's denied and there are future denials with this, then you're going to end up in a crisis. And you're going to end up in a place where people are just going to simply disobey the law and they are going to dump this material in the Pine Barrens. They're going to dump this material on the side of the road, as we've seen, even with the solutions that we have in place. So we need this type of facility.
Mr. Shea, I would agree with you. I understand it, but I understand this board is asking questions because we just want to make sure if this project goes forward, we want to make sure it's built correctly and it's safe. And my two questions for you are, one, if radiation material is found with your machines and monitors, what happens with that material at that point? And number two is, when it comes to the property, is this property inspected once a year or is it once a quarter?
This property is inspected on a regular basis. I believe it's once a quarter by the DEC.
Okay.
I will double check on that. I should have an answer shortly. As far as the radioactive material, obviously it's going to be rejected, and it will not be accepted at this site. Once we reject it and give it back to the truck driver, I mean, we can report it, but we don't have any other power to do anything about it. But we'll be happy to report any of those incidences.
Supervisor, would you like to, at this point, what would you like to do?
I have a few more questions, Councilman.
Okay. Excuse me. I will say that we will call New York State on any report of any radioactivity.
Councilman Panico.
Mr. Shea, this building is going to be 67 feet in height. Am I correct?
Correct. At its peak.
At its peak. Along Peconic Avenue now existing, what is the tallest building that currently is situated on any of the properties on a north or south side? Do you know?
There's a 69 foot high building, which I think is actually currently under construction. It's been approved. It's got a building permit. It's currently under construction. And there are a number of 50-foot buildings along Peconic Avenue.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like it's wildly out of character. There was a recent Board of Zoning Appeals grant for a height variance. Was that for your client?
Correct. Yes.
And how high is?
That was 69 feet.
That was the 69 you were referring to?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just going through all my scribble.
Tim,
Yes.
Mr. Shea,
Yes.
how are you dealing with the water after it's been used for misting?
Again, it will be disposed of properly. And again, I don't anticipate that there's going to be a lot of this water. I think the idea that this thing would be on a regular basis is a misnomer. It will only be utilized when it's necessary. And every night after, all of the transfer station activities are done, they're going to clean the floors and they're going to clean the entire inside of the building in preparation for the next day.
And at what time, Mr. Shea, will you stop receiving material?
I believe that we would be stopping receiving material around the end of the normal business days, around 5 o'clock or even before then.
And when the truck pulls into the building, are the doors closed behind it?
Not on a regular basis. It depends. I mean, there'll be doors that will be closed, and then there'll be doors that will remain open, especially the ones for trucks coming in, because you're going to have trucks coming in on an interval basis. We don't, we'd be opening and closing that door all day long. But we would close the doors that are not being utilized.
Okay, because the closest residential structure or residential use structure is 750 feet away. I believe that was Mr.
The structure that is going to be the transfer station is more than 750 feet away from the nearest residentially zoned property, which is used for residential use.
Okay, because when trucks pull in, if you've ever been around a 30-yard tractor trailer, as it tilts up and it dumps, and that door swings out and then swings back, it is quite loud. So if you were ending that operation, as you said, at 5 o'clock, it certainly would help the residential communities and neighbors.
Yes, but just so you understand the design, the doors that the trucks will be accessing will be on the east and the west side, not the south side. There will be south side doors for getting equipment in and out, but those will be closed most of the time.
Yeah, but I'm not a sound expert, but I would think, and I'm familiar with it, when that door, that big iron door or steel, whatever it is, swings out, swings back, it does, reverberate and usually hits the lock mechanism or whatever the back of the truck is a couple of times. So,
Well, again, that's why we're having everything indoors to cut down on the noise and in compliance with DEC and Town of Brookhaven regulations.
Okay.
Tim, I'll just along Councilman Panico's lines of questioning, a little bit just on the access in and out. When the trucks come in, when they first roll in that first building, they get weighed right there, right? This is where they get weighed, they get checked for radiation, everything that in that first building when they're coming into the facility. Is
Yes,
that correct?
before they enter the transfer station building, there's a weigh scale with the radiation detector.
Okay. And then this, and just to clarify this, when the train does come in, the train is going to be coming into the building and stopping, and that's where the loading is going to happen.
Well, I think that the train is going to come in as designated by LIRR. I don't know if they're going to come, the full engine is going to go into the building, or if it's going to be the containers will be adjacent, like right
next to
at the wall of the building. I can't say, but that's the goal.
Okay.
And on that, the rail spur that you have that is existing, correct? You have an existing rail spur?
We have existing rail spurs and rail spurs that are going to be constructed.
Okay, so as the line east of Ronkonkoma is not electrified, the train that would pull into the station would be diesel?
I don't have the answer to that question off the top of my head. I would have to look into that.
Unless the railroad has some new technology that I'm not aware of. I would think,
Yeah,
and
it would be.
Supervisor, everything east of Ronkonkoma is
Correct.
diesel?
Correct.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
And how long will that train at midnight be idling potentially for the loads to be put onto the cars, or to couple or attach?
I don't think it would be a very long time, because all the containers will be attached already, other than the one container, other than the end container that the train would hook up against.
So the train would be formed with the cargo cars, and you'd have to couple up with the engine that would pull?
Yep, and then they would just pull it out.
Can you get us an answer as to how long, and give us examples elsewhere, how long that usually takes? In perhaps not tonight, but
I have an
some
answer.
point?
It will be 20 minutes or less. And it may,
Other questions?
I'm good, Supervisor.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the board at this moment?
Supervisor, I have a motion to close this public hearing, but I would like to keep it open for a 10-day written comment.
Absolutely. I'll second that motion, and it will stay open. If anyone has any written comments that they think about after the fact, if they spoke tonight and they want to add a written comment, they can send it into the town clerk's office. 1 Independence Hill, Farmingville, New York, 11738. You can send your comments in. It will stay open for 10 days for written comments. So we'll make a motion to close. You made that motion. I've seconded it.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to close carries.
And Donna, those comments can be emailed, correct?
Those comments can be
I was going to-
emailed, they can
Yeah.
be written out, they can be sent in by mail.
We have an email set up for that, Annette. I'm just trying to, it is, they can send them to townclerk@brookhavenny.gov. And
Say that again, town clerk at Brookhaven.
brookhavenny.gov.
Okay, so
Mhm.
you can email your comments in, you can mail them in if you write them out, and it will be open for 10 days. We're closing this public hearing tonight. Let's take a vote on that, Donna.
So yes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to close carries.
Okay. Having no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting at this time.
So moved.
Second.
The second, yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn carries. Thank you.
Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Night, everybody.
Aye.